Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, we are from Group 1 and right now we are going to present you a presentation about Europe's post-pandemic economic challenges. Our group consists of Namira Agustina Purba, Ilyas Nabil Imani, Gamal Abdul Nasir Makatita, Muhammad Anditya Putra Darmawan, Kaila Gadis Michelle Sayidina, and the last one is me myself, Dianisa. The first topic we are going to present you is about introduction, and this section will be read by Gadis.
Thank you so much, dear. Now I will talk about the introduction of our topic. As we know, Italy is the first European country that affected by the pandemic in European region. So that's why, as a member state of the European Union, I think we need to highlight the economic situation before and after the pandemic takes place, because there are bound to be some differences between the two, especially after this pandemic or during the pandemic. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. Joining the European Union on January 1, 1958, Italy has managed to become a fairly influential country in the European Union. So Italy has the 8th largest GDP, which is the 4th largest economic in European region, with a GDP nominal value of 2.1 trillion USD. Italy's economic success may be observed in the country's relatively high GDP per capita, around 33.291 USD in 2019. Although the country's main budget or without interest payment is fundamentally positive, the interest cost of government debt weighs heavily on Italy finance, resulting in 1.3% budget deficit in 2018. So Italy governmental debt, which is among the biggest in the European after Greece, has imbalanced the Italian economy. And talk about the economic in Italy before the epidemic was generally concerning. Public debt reached 2.2% of GDP, and public debt ratio swelled to 134.8% of GDP at the end of 2018, and was among the highest in the world. So Italy governmental debt, which is among the biggest in Eurozone after Greece, has imbalanced the Italian economic. The EU continues to put pressure on Italy to lower its deficit and debt. Therefore, it frequently clashes with the Italian government, particularly on the topic of public spending. Next slide, please.
Okay, thank you, Gadis, for the introduction. And the research question for our paper or our presentation is: how is the role of the government, society, and any stakeholders due to save the stabilizations of Italy's economy during the coronavirus? And next, we are going to slide into the discussion. There are 4 parts of discussion. The first part will be read by Adit.
Okay, Anja, thank you for your uh, time, and I will read about the role of society of Italia in handling coronavirus due to the economic stabilization. Even though the Italia had become the center of the spread of COVID-19 at the beginning of the pandemic, Italia is now one of the countries with a low increase in corona infection, to the point that the government will leave the rule on wearing mask. That's all because of good cooperation between the government as policymaker and the community who implement and comply with the rules and all policies that exist and are made by the government. Uh, Things that local people do to reduce the spread of the COVID-19 are wearing a mask, doing a total lockdown, unable to travel and carry out activities outside the home for maybe around 2 months. Residents are required to stay at home and are prohibited from traveling outside the province. All activities were stopped, including the religious ceremonies, weddings, and funeral, as well as transportation between the province and between countries. With this policy, the economy in Italy was hampered and indirectly decreased. With the system and the government policies, the economy becomes sluggish and decreases over time. Therefore, the government and assist by the local community help each other to alleviate and resolve this problem. The role of government will not run easily and smoothly without the help of the community. Many of the association would took the field and volunteer to help victims and parents affected by COVID-19. Volunteer help not only in the form of energy, but also the donation. These volunteers are young people aged around 25 until 30 years old and maybe more. This call is called aimed at serving other and the country. They still have enough to donate the few material they have to help others such as clothes, food, or even donation in the form of money. This is very beneficial for those in need, especially those who are not lucky or deserve less attention from the government, such as the elderly. This also maintain the economic stability in Italy during the pandemic. I think that's all from me, Ansa. The time is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adit, for your time. Next part is role of the government of Italy in handling coronavirus due to economic stabilization. So, the lockdown policy has succeeded in suppressing the movement of people down to 40%. In addition, many companies have implemented work from home policies, which have further made the curve or the coronavirus infection slow. The government provides economic assistance to the people of 3.3 billion euros to be distributed to regions in Italy. This financial assistance is to help micro, small, and medium enterprises to survive during the pandemic. The next part is will be going to be read by Gamal.
All right, so thank you, Anja. Here I will explain about the role of the European Union in dealing with economic problems in Italy during the pandemic of COVID-19 began. So I think that it clearly shows that at the very first beginning of the pandemic, European Union seems overwhelmed to solve the problems that their members countries that happen in their member countries, right? Because we know that some of European Union's member countries feeling hard, especially to solve or to survive in their economic activities, right? In our discussions, we mentioned Italy as one of the countries that really get the full impact on how this pandemic totally fight their or broken their economic conditions. We do believe that, however, as a unitary organizations of the countries in the European zone, the European Union does not discourage or like showing their responsibility towards its member, because like such as is in the case how the European Union plays a role in this Italian economic during the pandemic. We believe that the European Union encouraged several European countries to help Italy. For example, France had donated masks to Italy, and also Germany sent seven tons of medical equipment to Italy, including ventilator, anesthetic mask. In addition, more than 200 intensive care patients from Italy have been moving to be more focused on care in hospital like Germany, Austria, and also Luxembourg. We believe that this EU policy experienced imbalance giving to countries that need more in Europe, such as Italy. We do believe, if we look at this statement, we do believe that it's just because the influence of Italy itself, right? Because we know that Italy has a really good or has a really big important influence in global economics. So I think that help Italy is so important to maintain the sustainability of economic conditions globally, right? So yeah, next slide will be the European Union needs to work hard to limit the surge in skepticisms in Italy. When the lockdown when the locking occurred in Italy, the European Union and its member countries turned away while countries as far away as Russia and China come to help. The risk that a lot of damage has been done to the reputation of the EU itself in Italy, as initial perceptions will not quickly save. So far, we believe that the EU has failed to communicate its good deeds to the Italian public. The European Union also seems slow in preventing conflict in interest between member countries in their organizations, but we do believe that it's just happened like at the very first beginning of the pandemic happened, but within that after the after the pandemic, or the past pandemic, European Union already shows their attentions toward those countries who have need in their economic preventions. For example, like the EU already they're giving some intention during or through financial stability to others members in Europe. It's not only about Italy, but so many European members countries same face the same problem. So I think those countries also need a really big and a really big attentions from European Union itself. So maybe that's all from me. For the next slide will be explained by the next speaker, and I give back to Anja.
Thank you, Gamal, for your time, for your presentation. And the last part will be read by Nabil.
Right, before I start my presentations, am I clear enough? Right, so there are several points that I want to deliver in these presentations, ladies and gentlemen. So today's material from me is actually the economic condition in Italy after the pandemic itself. As we know, Italy as one of the biggest victims of COVID-19 itself, because of no one of the countries itself didn't expect this kind of disaster will come, and then no countries are already prepared for this kind of disaster. So like what you can see on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, the OECD latest economic survey of Italy says the government support for the Italian household and business hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic should continue until the recovery is firmly underway, but should become increasingly targeted as the economy continues to strengthen. The OECD Secretary General Matthias Cormann said that once the pandemic subsides, public spending and tax policy must be reformed to complement the national recovery and resilience plans. So at that time, at the beginning, so European Union didn't help that much to Italy, and then because there are a lot of goals that actually the European Union already prioritized, because of this is the first disaster that we didn't expect that kind of disaster will came to us, and then they realized if they don't take the actions to help Italy, it will impact the currency in Europe, around Europe itself. And then, as we know, Italy as one of the biggest country with good economic growth and economic aspect. But in this substantive, in today's condition, it's getting better compared with the previous conditions of the first wave of COVID-19 at the beginning of 2020. And then due to good controlling from the government, and then due to good controlling and work with the other countries, and then the European Union. And then it's actually this kind of policy already pushed to minimize the worst scenario that will happen in the future, because of they have bad or the worst economic aspect at the time, because of this kind of COVID-19 already shut down the economic aspect in Italy. And then the facts are the Italians having good mechanism right now on run their activities. The fact is that shows is if Italy have they are getting better conditions right now, because of they already run their activities, normal activities, stores are open, and then work on business. So like what you can see on the screen, compared with the OECD average, taxes and labor remain too high. The report recommends implementing comprehensive tax reform to reduce the complexity of the system and to lower labor taxes. Working with over 100 countries, the OECD is a global policy forum that promotes policies to preserve individual liberty and improve the economic and social well-being of people around the world. That actually shows how good this kind of um, work itself, that shows how the progress of the Italy with the other countries itself. So the point is they have better condition right now in the economic aspect, and then after the blows that happens before was being lessons and the hard punch to produce the economic aspect. I think that's all for me now. I'll give it back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Nabil. That's the last part of our discussion. And before we close our presentation, I will give the conclusion of our presentation. So Italy has the 8th largest GDP and the 4th largest in the European region after Germany, United Kingdom, and France, with a GDP value of 2.01 trillion USD. Italy is a member of several international cooperation organizations and other groupings, including the G20, European Union, OECD, G7, and G8. Although the country's main budget is fundamentally positive, the interest cost of government debt weighs heavily on Italy's finances, resulting in a 1.3% budget deficit in 2018. Therefore, Italy needs a continuity process from all circles. It is not only in a government job, but becomes the job of society, government, and any stakeholders who have a role in Italia's economy. So that's all from us. Thanks for your attention. We are sorry if we made many mistakes. Thank you for your attention. Bye guys. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.